talking about Deadpool and Wolverine. I saw this movie yesterday, and so the usual way that I do these movie review videos is I just go stream of conscious. It's not like a structured thing, because the point is relaxation, yada yada yada. So, I don't try to do spoiler-free reviews. I'm gonna openly talk about spoilers. So if you just want to know my opinion on the movie, if you have not seen it yet and you are considering it, I would tell you to go see the movie. And I am somebody who has been heavily critical of the recent Marvel films. And I'm also somebody who did not like the second Deadpool film. I liked the first one, but I did not like Deadpool 2. I haven't liked a bunch of the recent Marvel stuff, but I did like this movie. I think this is worth the ticket price. But from here on forward, there is no guarantee of spoiler-free or anything like that. So if you don't want spoilers, see you later. Okay. So, like I already just mentioned, I've talked about this in recent videos. I have been heavily critical of a lot of the recent Marvel stuff. Now, this was a movie that, to me, it felt worth it to go see it in the theater. I don't know, I was like, you have Hugh Jackman coming back. I did like the first Deadpool movie, even though was not really a fan of Deadpool 2. So I was like, alright, this one feels worth it. I know I'm on this a little bit late. I only saw it yesterday. It had already been out for a couple of days, I think, at that point. And one thing I have to say is, so far, I have only seen 3 movies in theaters here in Australia. But compared to the movie theater experience back home in the States, I have way better experiences here than I did back then. The theaters have been nicer. The seats have been better. The audience has been well behaved. I've not had a single movie-going experience where I've had somebody sitting there on their phone or sitting there talking loudly to a friend. That's just simply hasn't happened. Like I said, it's only been 3 excursions to the movie theater, so there's certainly time for that to change, but yeah, so far so good. So I'm not coming at this as like some rabid MCU fan that's gonna like whatever they put out. A lot of the post-Endgame stuff I've just not cared about at all. I really like Shang-Chi. I really liked the new Spider-Man No Way Home. But like Thor Love and Thunder and Doctor Strange The Multiverse of Madness are both bottom tier all-time MCU films in my opinion. I've not seen the Marvels yet. I watched WandaVision and I watched Captain America, the Captain America show when it's Falcon taking over, and and then I watched Moon Knight, and beyond that I have not watched any of the shows because I'm just like, man, I don't care. I watched X-Men 97, but that doesn't really feel like MCU. Like I said previously, I did really like this movie. And I like the framing of like the beginning, and then you go back. And now this is a point I want to bring up. This is not a wholly original thought. I saw this elsewhere, but I've expanded upon this idea a little bit as I think about it. So, the first two Deadpool movies, obviously they're fourth wall breaking, right? And like, they're talking to the audience. The character is aware that he's in a film, but even though they are fourth wall breaking, they are not meta. This film is almost entirely meta commentary, which is extremely interesting. And like, it's meta commentary on multiple levels, which is like, because the movie is so unsubtle, the movie is so abrasive, the subtle aspects that come out, you can kind of miss them a little bit. So, what I mean by that is like, okay, Paradox, right? The villain. I know Cassandra Nova's the villain, but Paradox is kind of the original villain. His whole thing is like, okay, we're gonna take you and we're gonna put you in the sacred timeline. First of all, even calling it the sacred timeline is like kind of a lampoon. And we're just gonna kill off your entire timeline because Logan was the anchor character. So just examining that part, Paradox is literally Disney, or more specifically Kevin Feige. And they're like, okay, well, you know what, you're a popular character, Deadpool, so we're gonna keep you because we just bought Fox. But the only reason people were watching those Fox movies was Wolverine, and he's gone now, so time to get rid of the whole entire thing, right? And it's like, it's not that Logan died so the timeline can't survive. It's that Hugh Jackman stopped doing the movies, so the franchise isn't making money. That's literally like what the movie is saying. And then it's Deadpool making the choice, instead of like jumping to the MCU, being like, no, I'm gonna save this timeline and these characters instead. And like that right there, and even look at it, when he goes to meet with Happy Hogan, and it says 6 years earlier, so 2018, that's before Disney has the rights to the character, and he's meeting with Jon Favreau. And this would be after the events of the first Deadpool movie, I think, or maybe Deadpool 2. But that's the thing, he isn't just meeting with Happy Hogan. He's meeting with Jon Favreau, the producer for Marvel Studios, saying, I want to join the Avengers. But he's saying, you're not ready for it, whatever, because they did not have the rights to the character at that point in time. And then to go back to the Wolverine bit, he was talking like he left and he allowed all of the X-Men to be killed off because he wasn't there, he was gone getting drunk or whatever. But that isn't referencing, oh, the character Wolverine was gone. No, that's Hugh Jackman stopped doing the movies, and they kept making the X-Men movies without him, and they bombed, and they bombed, and they bombed, and then they canceled the series. So it's literally saying Hugh Jackman abandoned the X-Men movies, so they died, because he even says they were killed by humans. it's like, well, how could humans kill, you know, the X-Men? Well, it's because it's the audience, it's us, right? It's us. Let me see if there's anything else. I mean, obviously there's all of the Fox characters showing up. You know, obviously Johnny Storm, that's the big one. And then you even look at the ending of this movie, and it's like Deadpool basically acknowledging that, because this is a criticism a lot of people have had after the whole idea of bringing Deadpool into the MCU. A lot of people pushed back on that, and they're like, yeah, he's a great character in his own universe, his own movies, but how are you gonna have a character like this interacting with the current cast of characters? And Deadpool even acknowledges that in this movie by staying in his own timeline. So again, I don't know what that means, or like the MCU going forward. Obviously you kind of have the foreshadowing with the Thor crying over Deadpool scene, which maybe that just ends up being a gag and not actually a foreshadow for a future movie, but yeah, and I think also it's like, it's commentary on the audience, talking about the sacred timeline and, oh, this is all just trash, get rid of it. It's kind of making fun of like Marvel fans. The fans are like, oh, Disney should just buy everything up so we can have all the characters in the same movie. And like, let's just make the best Marvel movies, like buy up these characters, completely disregarding the Fox movies. But then that's kind of, like, the movie is kind of making fun of those fans who just like, you know, wanna throw all of that stuff in the past away. You know, so that was, you know, in a very interesting meta commentary, and the entire film itself is, I almost feel like the meta plot, the plot of what the movie has to say about the behind the scenes stuff is more front and center than the actual story plot stuff. Yeah. Now the actual movie itself. First of all, banger soundtrack. Absolutely banger soundtrack. Every time it did the thing where the music comes up loud, we get into an action scene, it was always good. Obviously you have Backstreet Boys in the beginning. Or is that NSYNC? Ain't no lie, baby, bye, 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 bye. I always get them confused. I don't know if that's NSYNC or if that's Backstreet Boys, I'm sorry. What I love is right away, because you start off with that snowy big fight scene where Deadpool is using Wolverine's skeleton as well as his own weapons to just dismantle TVA dudes. And right away you're like, okay, this is a Marvel movie. Disney has the rights now. But we're showing a lot of blood, a lot of gore, a lot of swearing. We're not gonna hold these movies back. And obviously you have that montage with all the different Wolverines. Absolutely loved that, and I loved this movie. They let Hugh Jackman be a bit more Wolverine-y than he has been in the past. Not just, you know, the obvious with the yellow costume. Although I do have to say, when Deadpool was going through all the different variants, the variant that was fighting Hulk when he has that brownish costume, which is like a very comic accurate costume, I loved that look. That was my favorite Wolverine suit. Yeah. Sorry, I sidetracked myself. It's very late. That whole sequence was great. What I was saying was what I love about this Marvel iteration, Disney iteration of Wolverine, is Hugh Jackman was doing some things that you would see from the comics. For instance, running on all fours. Like that one, I think he was running on all fours and he sliced up Deadpool's guns when the two of them were fighting, I think the first time. And the second fight scene was fantastic. You had the Honda Odyssey gag. But there's some things that I felt. Now the cameos, obviously, that's like a big thing. That's gonna be a lot of people talk about. But there was one cameo that I was expecting that didn't happen. And that was the female Deadpool. I thought that was gonna end up being Blake Lively. I was like 99% convinced because I came into this, I didn't have any spoilers, I didn't like look anything up. I didn't know the cast. Basically all of the cameos except for Blade were a surprise. And I was like waiting, especially in that last fight scene when they're fighting all the Deadpools. I was waiting for her to take the mask off and have it be Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds' wife. But it didn't end up happening. It felt like a layup right there. Cassandra Nova is the villain. I thought was interesting. I feel like just about anybody theoretically could have been the villain of this movie. And they could have found a way to make it work, because it was more about the villain was kind of the secondary bit. But what I do like, and this again goes into the meta story being told in this movie, is at the end, when she is trying to bring the entire multiverse into the void. Right, she's trying to absorb the powers of the Time Ripper so she can destroy all of the universes and have only the void left. That's literally talking about, like, and that goes hand in hand with what Deadpool says earlier in the film when he's like, you're joining us at a low point. Obviously talking about like how me and many others feel the quality of the movies has been worse lately. The box office is going down, and you have all of these people, movie critics, people online, even other actors, industry people talking about, oh, is it time for the MCU to end? You know, is it time for all of this to just be done? And that's kind of what Cassandra Nova's doing at the end. She's like, okay, we're just gonna destroy this whole entire thing. Again, her serving as a stand-in not only for the audience, but critics, industry people, probably even shareholders, saying like, alright, well, we destroyed the Fox universe. We're gonna destroy the MCU too, because it's done, the movies are dying, you know, all those, you see all those articles, is the MCU dead? And that's Cassandra Nova. She's like, alright, we're gonna destroy the MCU. No more movies. But Deadpool, Marvel Jesus, and Wolverine, aka this movie, literally the movie we are watching, kills her and saves it. Like it's all, it's not just they're defeating the villain. The movie, in the plot of the movie, is literally saying, this movie that you're watching right now is going to save the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And we're going to have Deadpool and Wolverine in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. And I think Hugh Jackman Deadpool says multiple times in this movie, you're gonna be doing this until you're 60. I think that's not so much of a joke as it is the reality of the situation. And at the end of the movie, Wolverine says like, oh, you probably are not gonna see me again. He walks away. But then Deadpool stops him, brings him back, and at the end they're together still. And they're supposed to be killed by the chain reaction thing, but they survived that. So I think that's literally telling us, the audience, Deadpool and Wolverine are going to be here, and they're going to be in the movies going forward. The next Avengers movie, it's going to have Deadpool and Wolverine in it. That's just how I interpret that again, because this entire movie is not a movie. It is a meta analysis of the current state of the MCU as like an entertainment product. And once I kind of, like, somebody else mentioned this, but then like I continued to deconstruct it further, and once I realized this, I was like, this entire movie only exists to tell this. But that's almost more interesting than it being like an actual movie, and that's not to say it isn't an actual movie. But it's just like, yeah, and there's so much, and I feel like I'm gonna have to watch this again. I'll probably wait till it's on theaters, but I also loved how it was respectful to the Fox, the previous properties. Even the characters saying like we get our happy ending, because those movies were there was so much negativity around those films. The actors, the movies were just getting criticized. And you bring those actors back, you say, you know what, we're getting our ending, we're getting our happy ending, our storylines figured out right here. And I thought that was really cool. You bring back Elektra, you bring back, so many Toad, Juggernaut, Blade, Wesley Snipes' Blade. I loved it. Blade had a few little jokes there talking about, he said something about there's never going to be another Blade either, obviously, because the Mahershala Ali Blade film has been in development hell for like 5 years now, and a lot of people assume it's just going to be cancelled. And then obviously the reference, Wesley Snipes, the joke, him and Ryan Reynolds working together on Blade Trinity, and apparently they really did not like each other. And that movie is, if you haven't heard some of the controversial stuff about Blade Trinity, that's like a infamous set stories where there was a scene where Wesley Snipes refused to open his eyes, so they had to CGI his eyes being open in post because he just hated the director and his other cast members so much he just refused to act. Yeah. I feel like I should have more to say about this movie, but really, I did really enjoy it. The actual plot of the movie itself was a bit thin, but everything else, it almost doesn't matter. The action scenes were all fantastic. It was much better than Deadpool 2, both comedically, and everything else as well. And I love the character development for Wolverine. There's that scene in the Honda Odyssey before their second fight where Hugh Jackman just gives a great performance. You see those acting chops come out. Probably more so than any of the previous X-Men films he did. See, what I felt like, what I didn't like about Deadpool 2 was the jokes, and the quippiness kind of felt out of place. It felt like they were just capitalizing on the success of one, kind of bumped out too quick, and the movie suffered for that. There was a bigger gap between 2 and this movie than between 1 and 2. Obviously, we had COVID, the writer's strike, actor's strike, And I think that movie well. I'm excited to see, because this right now, it feels like there's kind of a blank slate going forward. Really interested to see what happens with both Deadpool and Wolverine going forward, and how they not interpret, but how they work them into the regular MCU lineup, especially because we have the Fantastic Four movie coming out. I think next year, I think July of next year. I think that it's releasing either the week before or the week after Superman. So it's interesting. I think that Marvel has the opportunity to use this as kind of like a soft reboot, and to maybe save the reputation of the MCU and keep this train rolling for another 10 years. We'll see. But then 2 days after this movie came out, they did the Doctor Doom announcement, which I am very upset about, to be honest, but I'm not going to get into that now. It's not pertinent to this film. I did really like it. I would go 4 out of 5, 3.75 out of 5, something like that. 7.5 out of 10 maybe. I did really like it. It was a great time. The movie never overstayed its welcome. It was paced well. And plus that ending bit with the good riddance and the little behind the scenes stuff from the original Fox movies kind of got me a little choked up a little bit. But anyway, guys, if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.